So in the session today, we are following first an introduction of this South African industrial view. So we will have a first lecturer, which is Joanne Dean. Unfortunately, she was ill, but she could join us online. So we are very happy that she did do so. So after her, we will have Professor Ben Bladergroen, who will give us more an insight on the academic research point of view, but they already have good links also with the industry. And it's also from a South African point of view. And then finally, we guide you towards our research in Belgium and how we collaborate with South Africa for the energy storage. So let me first introduce for you our first speaker, who is Jo Dean. So she's a dynamic CEO of the Energy Holdings Group, and she's also a leading voice in the South African clean energy transition. She's a professional engineer with dual degrees, both in mechanical and environmental engineering, and she also serves as a chair of the South African Energy Storage Association. She plays a key role in national energy policy through the business unity of South Africa. So she's really driving the change in South Africa, how it powers the future. So please welcome Jo Dean, and she will be presenting energy storage and the evolving energy landscape in South Africa.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's difficult because I can't see anything and I can see my PPT, but I'm terribly excited to be here. And firstly, a great big shout out to G-STIC and mostly to Sophia, who's been putting this together for a very long time. And you know, Murphy's Law says that something will happen, and on the most excited time you can't be there. Unfortunately, I cannot be there in person, but I'm in their spirit and heart, and I want to try and speak today to practicalities and the enthusiasm that we need to start generating to roll up our sleeves, get our boots on the ground, and actually start enabling the just energy transition. So in my working capacity, everything that I'm going to present to you is nothing that I haven't gone and tried, tested, whether it being clients accepting, consulting on and building projects on off balance sheets or on balance sheets and various mechanisms. I'm very interfering and very OCD and wanting to know that everything can work. So nothing that I'm going to share with you now is not what is nothing is impossible. And the fact that we need to enable it is the differentiating whether South Africa is going to make the great big just energy transition, because globally we have an energy transition. South Africa, we have a just energy transition. We're transitioning a huge enforce from coal to the new world of green economy. So I think, let me talk to my presentation. I think it's going to be easy. It's pretty difficult when you can't see the audience. I would love to see all your faces. I'd love to chat with you in person and encourage you on this huge opportunity in South Africa. So firstly, I looked at energy storage. What do I want to coin it? What do I want to turn it? I'm saying that energy storage categorically will accelerate the South African energy transition and create the much needed stepping stone to the new energy world. This is what we need in South Africa.
Joanne?
We see other...
Joanne, you're not sharing we don't see your presentation. You're not sharing it.
It is on share mode. Oh, goodness. Let me just see quickly what happened there. I don't know why it's gone out of share. Apologies, everybody, for that. I just want to go back to the Teams. I want to go back to share.
That's the Murphy's Law you were saying.
Yeah, that one.
Now
it's very busy today.
We
just stop. Yeah, I know you're seeing everything else on my screen bar for my for my PowerPoint.
That's no problem.
Apologies, everybody. I'm going to get it right. Let's go back to that. Let's go back to the screen. So I had thought it was being shared because that's all I can see. You know what I mean? Is my PPT. So that's why I wasn't able to see that you don't see it. You understand?
Yes. Yeah. It's strange. Can you?
Teams? It is strange. Yeah. I'm going back to the Teams, and then I'm going back to if I've got.
Yes, we see it now. Yeah, but not in presentation mode. But we see it.
Yeah. Let's try and get it just to presentation mode quickly. Let's just try kill this. Put this there.
Perfect. Yes.
And that's where we start. So
yes, great. Thank you.
Okay. So this was the start, because this is all I could see just now when I was talking to you. All right. So go back to the starting point. I said energy storage will accelerate South African energy transition and create the much needed stepping stone to the new energy world. Challenges that South Africa has is that we have to add a J in front of the energy transition, and we have to coin it a just energy transition. South Africa has many other elements that are inclusive in us being able to position into an energy transition. So I wanted to give you some perspective. I'm sure you all know all these points, but I detailed them just for interest. So global energy transition trends 2025, where are we now in the energy transition, right? So there's rapid growth in renewables. 2024, we saw 585 gigawatts of new renewable capacity was introduced globally. PV accounted for 452 gigawatts. This is 78%. Global clean energy investment reached $2.2 trillion. That's double that of what we put into fossil fuels. Regional differences. Europe accelerated transition because of climate policies, geopolitical pressures. China and India investing heavily in solar. We've seen even the magical, I can say, execution of PV in the sea, hydrogen, electrical transport, aiming for carbon neutrality by 2060. Global North targeting carbon neutral power systems. Right, the challenges. Despite progress, fossil fuels still supply 80% of global primary energy. Energy inequality persists, especially in the global south, where access and affordability remain major issues. What is the status quo in South Africa? South Africa, we know we still have a 74% coal dependency on our electricity generation. We know that Eskom is repurposing the old coal plants, exploring small modular reactors, long duration storage. But these are programs still on the table. These are the programs that are, as I said, boots on the ground. IPP program for public and private sector RE projects. Just energy transition that I alluded to, partnership. Initially, there was a backing for 8.5 billion. We've now got $11.8 billion after additional pledges. Focus areas, obviously the electricity sector and renewables, green hydrogen, big talking point, electrical vehicles, skills development, coal region revitalization in the EGR whole Mpumalanga area. What are our challenges? We've got a very slow deployment of renewables, and there is still a large-scale resistance to coal decommissioning. That mindset shift that needs to change. The second part, and the most important part, and this is where storage comes to the forefront, grid constraints, regulatory bottlenecks, and affordability issues hinder this progress, right? The third part is that we know that we went through 5 years of intense load shedding, not enough in generation, and there's this fear of the coal being phased out too quickly without the adequate uptake of renewable and storage capacity. So there's a competition even within a monopoly. Opportunities. South Africa holds 60% of Africa's best solar resources and leads the continent in renewable energy capacity. Can you imagine 10.62 gigawatts? Industrial hubs like Atlantis, SEZ, Richards Bay IDZ, Kawiga IDZ are emerging as the hubs for green manufacturing and hydrogen export centers. We have vast and huge opportunities. What is blocking us, right? Just energy transition path forward for South Africa. One, we need to accelerate grid upgrades to enable large-scale renewable energy integration. Two, we need to strengthen the policy coherence. Three, we need to expand local manufacturing, clean energy components. Four, ensure community inclusion from the coal regions through to retraining and economic diversification across South Africa. This is a key point. This is the deal breaker and where the resistance currently is on the transition. We are clinging to the past metrics that we understand, and this is limiting the enablement into the future, and the future is often seen as the big blue sea. How do we do this? And the last point 5, we need to leverage Africa's strategic position in critical minerals and solar potential for global partnerships. We have got one of the largest resources available for all of these critical minerals that are required in the new world of green energy. Therefore, today I come to you with great excitement. I want to thank you first, Sophie, and the rest of the crew that you've invited me to speak to one of the most powerful and practical levers we have to speed up South Africa's energy transition, namely energy storage. I want to frame today's talk around a few simple ideas. Storage turns renewable energy from when the sun shines and the wind blows, and to when the country needs it. In other words, storage is that stepping stone. It's that converter of our variable generation into dependable supply. It's a simplistic concept. It's a phenomenon understood worldwide many years ago. That single shift from variability to dependability is what unlocks speed, scale, and confidence in our transition. The 5 themes that I want to detail for you here, and then I'm happy for anybody to contact me afterwards. We can expand on this and talk on it for weeks if you get my number or my email address. Why does storage matter now? Why do we need it now and not later in South Africa? 2, how does storage work across the South African grid, from system to network to site level? 3, the business models that are actually bankable here. When any country embarks on this, and South Africa is not a different phenomenon, for most parties that say, please, how do we prove the energy transition is bankable? We have some of the most conservative banking systems in South Africa. They review things for us. How do we prove it to them? I remember 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when PV came out, people used to say to me, but does PV work? How are we going to bank it? It took us 10 years to get it to bankability. We need to be able to show that the newer technologies are bankable now. It's a nascent technology that's expanding. The policy and the market tweaks that will accelerate the rollout. That's what we need to do from SAIS's point of view, from our government entities, from our industry bodies, from our engagement. That is what we're looking at to how to accelerate the rollout. And the last one that I wanted to really talk about is a practical roadmap for action over the next 24 months. So my call to everyone is, do you want to sit and debate and to think, or do I have enough evidence to prove to you that we can get this ramped up in an incredibly rapid pace? Along the way, I'll keep it grounded in South African realities. This is not fairy stories. This is not pie in the sky. This is not wish list. This is reality. What are the grid constraints? What is wheeling enabled to us? Municipal procurement and the day-to-day world of all the developers, IPPs, the mines, the retailers, the municipalities, and the financiers. Storage matters now, not later. So South Africa has 3 bottlenecks: capacity, adequacy, grid congestion, and investor, and I should have said the uncertainty. I said we need to prove certainty, but at the moment, there's uncertainty. Storage ticks the box and aids all 3. Capacity adequacy, we don't need more megawatts. We do, but we don't need more at this time. We need megawatts at the right hours. Solar gives us midday surpluses. We're hearing the stories about there's going to be curtailment. There's going to be zero prices for solar that's produced at 12 o'clock. 2, the system peak typically arrives in the evening. We've got the normal, I would mean, standard curve of anybody across the world. And if you think of it, 40% of our grid is industrialization, 60% is municipal. So where would our peaks be? They're going to be in the mornings and the evenings when showering, bathing, cooking, etc. Unplanned outages. So we do have a very brittle grid, a very fragile grid. Eskom is doing marvels now to repair it, but we still have grid instability, which causes volatility. Right, storage soaks up the midday surpluses, flattens the volatility, delivers into the peak. It's the shortest path to reducing load curtailment without having risk and without having to overbuild on other elements like gas or coal. Second, grid congestion. Even where there's land, permits, capital, we face a constrained transmission and distribution capacity. Strategically placed storage, we need to place it at the substations along the weak feeders. Everyone's so detailed in wanting to put it right with the PV or that. We need to expand the grid. We need to be able to make it holistic. So you could have multiple entities. You can have co-located, standalone storage, but the areas which we need to focus on at the substations, from the Eskom distribution down to the municipalities, the weak feeders, and then behind the meter. So you can reduce peak flows, you can defer grid upgrades. Our grid currently needs, I think, something in the excess of 500 billion. Storage can give you time to expand the grid because storage alone will expand that grid and enable the next generation. Think of storage almost as a virtual line upgrade. Third, investor certainty. We all know lenders, unpredictable cash flows. They want to see pairing with PV or wind. They want to narrow the gas between P50 and P90. If I'm building a project, I'm focused on P50 to measure my contractors, but my bank is financing on P90. So they're financing on a very conservative outlook of what the output would be and how to stabilize the revenue. So we need to create new ancillary service income streams. So it's just not the basic interest. There is a myriad of elements that we can unpack. The result is simpler credit committees, lower cost of capital, and faster financial close. In short, storage improves the physics, the finance, and the timing of the transition all at once. Storage works across the South African grid. where would we want to implement the storage? As I said, system level, stabilizing frequency and delivering peak power. The batteries are incredibly fast. Response times on our battery system that we've recently commissioned, it's one of the first grid-forming battery systems in South Africa. They can be responding in milliseconds, guys. We're doing black start. We're doing frequency deviations. We are the shock absorbers to the grid. The speed is valuable because it reduces the need to keep expensive spinning reserves, evening peaks. For our battery systems deliver firm capacity. We worked on 5. Some of the entities we're working on now are 2 and 3. It depends. You've got the flexibility to model. Okay, crucially, system level storage is modular. We can do 50 megawatts here, 100 megawatts there. We can build a fleet of flexible assets, and you just aggregate them all to a virtual power plant. That flexibility is gold in the grid, and it can evolve month by month. What we traditionally now have, we have coal-fired power stations and a centralized energy distribution point. By enabling this aggregated process, we can change the world. Right, network level, relieving constraints and deferring upgrades. Transmission distribution levels. I'm not going to hover too much on this because I'm not very much aware where the time is, Sophie's going to have to coach me. But shave substation peaks, support voltage. We have immense challenges on the South African grid with low voltage. Low voltage is a nightmare for a smelter. It's a nightmare for a mine. If you can shift the peaks and support the low voltage, you've got a winning ticket, right? Provide black start support, islanding capabilities in critical zones, defer right size line upgrades, right? Addressing the few critical hours that actually don't drive the capacity things. So if you can understand, this is especially powerful in load pockets. When you've got metros, mining belts, we can't expand the grid. We don't have the capex in the country for adding the transmission upgrades. So that's at the network level, and then obviously behind the meter, that's specific, client specific. So your mines, your malls, your manufacturers, behind the meter storage. It gives them the ability to do arbitrage, shifting out in off peaks, so they're shifting money and charges, levelizing it. I always have the joke to say a kilowatt hour that's the same for 24/7 would be a horrible thing if you're on a life support, that flat line, but a flat line on your energy bill, wow, that's what we want. Demand charge management, clipping the 15-minute peaks at punishables, reliability, PV firming, smooth clouds. Anybody that's got PV system knows what happens when that little cloud comes hovering over at 11 o'clock in the morning. Ramp rates, export. And then the big word in South Africa and the big driver behind everything that we're doing is your wheeling of energy, PPA frameworks. All of these are enabled by storage. Bankable business models, PV plus storage under private PPAs. I'll send this around later, Sophia, because I don't think I want to go into too many of them, but I think we all understand the PV plus storage and private PPAs. We understand storage as a service behind the meter. You're providing network capacities, you performance-based component, be giving security of supply, being on standby on call. It's very attractive, and the savings are very clear. Tolling model for grid scale batteries. Battery owners sell use of asset rights to an energy trader, aggregator, or utility. They're all in the market. Guys, we've got something like 12 traders registered. We've got aggregators. We've got power pooling. We've got the South African power pool where we want to engage with the SADC countries. And further, I mean, the dream originally for Africa was the Cape to Cairo grid. This is where the tolling model comes into its full capacity payment and ancillary services again. Fast frequency response. Eskom calls on you to ramp up. You get a fixed capacity payment. So there's models there, and you can subscribe your storage system to any one of those. So then my most favorite and the one that I work the hardest on is virtual wheeling power pools. Portfolio combines multiple PV sites with a shared storage hub. The pool time shifts and smooths the aggregate output, enabling multi-off-taker supply across municipal and Eskom networks. This doesn't cherry-pick the revenue from the municipality or from Eskom. It's in support to the municipalities and Eskom. So storage earns from peak delivery and imbalance reduction. It is a phenomenal attribute to those services and would be highly recognized by municipalities and our monopoly, which is Eskom. So common thread across these models is, what do we need to understand that what storage brings? Contract the when and not the how much. So shifting megawatt hour during peak windows is worth more than an undifferentiated megawatt hour. 2, defining the performance clearly. round-trip efficiency, usable capacity, state of health warranties, and response time should be bankable, measurable, and aligned to the revenue model. Storage enables this in any generation profile. Optimization matters. An average optimizer leaves 10 to 20% of its value on the table. With battery storage, you're able to use data, you're able to forecast, and you're able to do automated dispatch to capture it. So this is the enabler to the other technologies that produce that free energy kilowatt hour from whichever green resource there is, or biomass facilities, any of the facilities that we want to encourage. And what does it give you? The primary thing, it ensures what you can't control. Right, so anybody that's tried to finance a project, you have to put up performance guarantees, you have to put up business interruption, and you have to module BMS warranties. This gives the ability to those technologies to give lenders comfort. Why we don't reinvent the grid to scale? Okay, policy and market tweaks. What do we do as the storage bodies and as the mutual plenaries within all of the governmental bodies, within the DMRE, within BUSA, within NERSA, and all the entities that regulate? We need to be able to ensure that what we're saying is true. We can only do these by the POCs. So what we need to do is we need to be able to recognize capacity and flexibility as products. Right, so time differentiated tariffs, we're already seeing the tariff changes. We are already receiving them. We could, but we need to sharpen them now. So now we've got the smorgasbord of different tariffs, but now we can start focusing and saying, well, look, here is the fast response time addition, evening deliveries, etc. So it's how do I say? Yeah, I think I wrote it here. A modest, transparent capacity payment catalyzes investment, right? It's those cherries that just take that financial model to one that's attractive to all, right? Standard municipal frameworks. Dozens of municipalities are building wheeling and SSCG rules. We've worked very hard on this. We're seeing it. We're putting it into practice. It isn't easy, guys. It's hard to get the wheeling through, but once the first wheeling is through, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 the other day. It was hard work. I was beating my head against the wall, but we've got the first one, and then that becomes the precedent, right? So they know how to cover the metering settlement, they know how to cover curtailment and compliance, and it cuts out the friction and the legal costs to projects, because everyone's looking and saying, will the municipality be able to do it? When they see one, when you show them a bill, and you say, yeah, it's done, it works. Enable aggregate VV virtual power participation. That's very much what your aggregators do. One of the biggest projects that I'm working is the pooling of power and pooling of generators, which if I had pooled storage, demand response, capacity and reserve products, it changes the world. Imagine if I could take all 20,000 houses that have got 3 kilowatt systems and bring them together to be able to become a generator to change the market code. So this is looking to the market codes. Fast tracking grid connections for non-worsening projects, right? So prioritize PV and storage only projects. That's work that we're doing with NERSA, that we're doing with Eskom. We all know it's a highly regulated environment. We do have these issues where different entities, the environmental entities aren't on par with maybe where the regulator is sitting, and you've got to sort of try streamlining them, because historically, I think we've probably seen it worldwide as well. People go down a path, and a development period could be 2 to 3 years. We don't have 2 to 3 years. We need to see how we can fast track this development. Government has come up with fantastic models like Energy One Stop Shop that looks at your project and says, okay, where is it stuck? Where's this tight spot? Where can we unlock this, right? Clear rules for co-located assets, one connection point, multiple assets have been unambiguous metering and settlement. That all is in that wheeling constraints on how do we match a bucket of energy provided from whichever technology you want versus a bucket of offtake. And then data transparency, right? Peak price windows, commitment. We have that in South Africa. We're looking at how we can get the ancillary service charges done, and this enables the market as well, right? So the roadmap that I spoke to you about.
Joanne,
We say, yeah, sorry.
can we round up?
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Practical roadmap, I will share with all of you shortly. I think my time is up. I get very excited about storage and trying to explain to you. But the accelerator, here's the pragmatic sequence. I will share this with Sophie, and Sophie can distribute it around. But we've already capped some of these guys. This is what South Africa's been working on, identifying top substations where standalone projects can come, PPAs. Here's the months 3 to 9, procure and aggregate. We've already got bid rounds, both in private sector and in the public sector, right? Monetize the flexibility, getting these basic standard documents to the financiers that they can understand it. That when you go to the bank actually has a bankable PPA as opposed to 18-month long discussions on how do you get the banking of the projects, and then scale that really works, expand the accredited aggregator to CNI, large fleets, etc. So we've been working on that. The last one, Sophie, just quickly, is addressing common concerns, because I was hoping some people would ask us these questions. Isn't storage too expensive? That's one of the questions that's put to me almost every day in wearing my storage cap. No, it isn't. And I've written the answers for you. Battery lifespan and degradation, guys. We are seeing ability to put on projects. I've got one that I can share stats with you where we've got a 15 to 20 year time period on it. So the technology has evolved dramatically. Over the last 2 years, it's been nascent. It's exploded. Will batteries be safe and compliant? Yes. In South Africa, we do need to focus on this. And at an industry body level, this is one of the primary things we're looking at is the fire suppression, the measurement of storage, and grid code compliance. We have an extremely stringent RETIC and grid code integrations. Will storage crowd out grid investment? No. And this is the big message that I want to bring here to you. Storage is not going to crowd out the grid investment. We need the grid expansion. We need the new transmission lines. But storage is going to defer the right size upgrades. It doesn't replace the need for a stronger grid. But think of it as a scalpel that lets us operate to keep the patient breathing. That's the transition that we're going to make. And then the last one, but it's just for you to read at your leisure. What does that mean for the different actors? Because I didn't know who my audience is I'm addressing. But I want to prove to the world, for the municipalities, there's the benefit. For large off-takers, the benefit. For developers and IPPs, for benefit. For financiers, for regulators. Because my message to you is bringing it to life, a day in the future grid. If you had a typical weekday in our near future grid, by late morning, PV is plentiful. Batteries across the country at mines, malls, substations quietly absorb the excess. In the afternoons, clouds roll over in one region. DPP issues dispatches. The ramp batteries, we are shifting discharge to clearer regions. As the sun sets, the feet flips. Stored energy flows back, sharing a smooth evening peak. Frequency wobbles, batteries respond in milliseconds. And I can prove it to you. I am going to send you videos of a response in milliseconds. Feeder trips, local battery islands, critical load, hospital, till crews can complete switching. Most people don't notice anything. Lights stay on, factories keep coming, data centers don't blink, and believe me, a data center does not want to blink. And the system operator has room to move. So what I've brought to you today, this is not science fiction. It's a control room view made possible by assets we can deploy today, with business models we can finance today, and the rules that we adopt this year. Potential to momentum is what storage is going to bring. It values the right hours, it standardizes the rules, and it deploys at the pinch points. So let's press the accelerator together, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Jo. So now you all understand why I said she's really an advocate for the clean energy transition. Yeah, you already addressed some possible questions. I think we have time for 1 or 2 questions before we go to our next speaker. Are there any questions in the room from the audience? Or was it a lot of information you have to process? We will share the presentation later on. Okay, there is one question.
Thank you, presenter, for the wonderful presentation and a good overview. My question relates to, obviously the world over there is this momentum towards electric vehicles, and your presentation did not cover that at all. And I'm wondering where that features, and if in the future, I understand we don't have time today.
Definitely features. No, it definitely features, yes.
Yeah.
But your question, the last point?
Yeah, the question is, would you in the future give us insights into where as South Africa we are in terms of electric vehicles
Definitely.
and obviously your strategy around that? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So great. I think Sophie must distribute my presentation, and then I'll put my contact details at the back, my email and WhatsApp. My phone rings incessantly, so maybe not call me, but ask me on WhatsApp if anybody wants to call me to talk. I'd encourage you to come and join us at SAISA. SAISA is the South African Energy Storage Association. We have a huge platform, and I have to deal with many technologies. So today I spoke primarily about BASE or what would be your traditional lithium ion, but you must understand we represent mechanical storage. We represent nuclear for all it's worth, because any type of storage we represent hydro. And then we've got a section which is very big and very vibrant, which is the EV vehicles. The only challenge being with EV vehicles is that we need to expand this grid. That's what I was talking about, is how do we get this mass generation? Because the next level is hydrogen, green hydrogen, and green hydrogen needs huge amounts of energy generation. So we're trying to get the technologies adopted, so that you saw what I said. We've got to put pedal to the metal, right? We've got to get storage, and we've got to get the grid expanded so that we can adopt the requirements that vehicles bring. Vehicles is very interesting. We've got a lot of models where we've worked at it at almost at like a municipal at a distribution level, because your car vehicle's battery also becomes well, your car's vehicle actually also becomes a battery towards the grid. It just depends on the time periods where you're charging, and that's about that flow that I said, where we've got these curves, and we've got these demand spots where we need the power. But it's to change the mechanisms of when you would utilize the grid. So for instance, for car charging stations and that. So yes, we firmly believe in it. I mean, it's one of the most important elements in a South African place for an ability to transition to decarbonization. I mean, the goal is for South Africa to decarbonize. One of the biggest negatives would be our mass diesel, and I'm sure there's a lot of people here going to shoot me, but mass diesel and petrol sort of guzzlers and consumers. And we've seen the transition worldwide, and the only thing that has maybe stopped it in South Africa, one is the DTIC is doing amazing work to lobby for I think it's 5 now. There's 5 of the electric vehicles, EV car manufacturers that want to establish in South Africa, which is what we're driving. We're driving localization and manufacturing. And the limiting factor is one, availability of the cells. You know, are we going to go hydrogen, or we're going to go traditional battery cells that they want to be enabled. And there's no less than 3 of the big brands, your Envision, your Catal, your BYD, that are willing to facilitate into that. So yes, if you want to chat on it, don't get my number. I'll introduce you one of our chief guys that leads that is a gentleman by the name of Hayton Palmer. Very dynamic, and this is the thing. It's not that we can't do it. The limitations in South Africa is we almost a society that's looking for the one that goes first. So this is why we're trying to build these projects, and we're trying to get the first ones, because then we'll be fast followers and we'll be able to enable it.
Okay,
I don't know if that answers your question.
there's one last question, shortly, please, because we have other speakers.
Great, thanks for the presentation. Structurally, would a Chapter 9 engineering institution help the cause for a just energy transition?
The big driver, yes, education, how can I say, skills transfer ability, is that if you look at it from and we talked about the just energy transition, you've got this huge embedded mass of employee expectation in the Mpumalanga area, which is the coal mines and that. And then by the minute we start trying to move into the space, it's this threat to jobs, which is very real. From the coal mines, from the coal truckers, and then to the coal-fired power stations, and the people are condensed in one certain area, and we're trying to explain how within the green economy there's many skills. There's many skills. It doesn't even have to be at engineering level. What we see, which is negative, and which we're turning around, is if you build a wind farm, you have 600 people in a condensed area for a limited period of time with an expectation for jobs, these are the people that become the forgotten bottom. What we're working on very hard now under the South African Renewable Energy Master Plan is how do we close that policy, how do we close those skills gaps, and how do we enable either some skills transfer for people to go into more basic jobs that become full-time equivalent, or how do we take off those entities and then upskill them and into the TVETs and into the different colleges so that they can come back into the workflow or the employment strategy with valuable skills that can be absorbed and would be required. So there's a very big program on this. It's a very big cornerstone on it. And also the challenges that I experience in construction of projects and things is our engineering field is also very nascent, right? So when we come to battery storage, I can count on my hand now, and I mean this with all due respect to everyone in the country, how many trained engineers we have, skilled engineers that can connect a 40 megawatt battery to the grid. I can count on one hand, and that's where we can make the difference. That we can't keep on staying into the old jobs. If we can create this mood of new jobs, we can change the world. That's the big part on the test. So we would need it at all levels. It's very important, and it's something we're working very hard on. Also happy for you to engage with me afterwards. I can share some of the work that's been done. But it's not easy. You've got to fight hard for it, and you've got to be determined. We're going to do this, but we are. We're going to do this.
Okay, thank you so much, Joanne. What I remember is we can change the world. So give her a round of applause. Thank you very much, Joanne.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Our next speaker is Professor Ben Bladergroen, and he is a pioneer in the energy storage research from the University of Western Cape. He was a former student in the University of Twente in the Netherlands, but he lost his heart here in South Africa, and he came in 1998. And there he did first his PhD, and now he leads the Energy Storage Innovation Laboratory. And this is home to Africa's only pilot plant that is capable of assembling lithium-ion batteries. So we will hear more about that in his next lecture. And this is called the South African Energy Storage Landscape, Challenges and Opportunities from a Research and Industry Point of View.
Good afternoon, everybody. So while we're waiting, yeah, thanks for the introduction. Everybody has a good time so far? Yes, everybody believes that the hydrogen energy storage is really what we need? No, that's not my face. So, yeah, I've been here since, actually, Malwani Modiberi here sitting here was one of the first people I met in South Africa when I started in 1998 at the University of Western Cape. We were both students at that time. And I was just an ignorant Dutch person trying to see the country. So my boss wasn't very happy with me because every day I was planning where I was going in the weekend, which area of the country I should still see. So I only became serious, and I kind of jumped to the other side of you know, life in a sense, and where I started sleeping in the lab to do as much work as I possibly could. I think Malwani still remembers. People came into the lab, and I was sleeping on the chairs like this, because I was working the whole night and thinking of something. So, but yeah. So currently I'm looking at this at the University of Western Cape, the South African Institute for Advanced Materials Chemistry, and I would like to start with some pictures, because pictures, they tell you 1,000 words, and in a sense these pictures show exactly why Joanne is very excited and why we think that everything can happen in the space of renewable energy, but also in space of energy storage. So I start with solar PV cost. I mean, this is really unbelievable how the cost of PV has went down from 100 to 0.1. So that's 1,000 times reduction of the cost. I don't know why that thing is there. I can move it a little bit, possibly, without crashing the system. Good. So the same thing we see in, I can just minimize it altogether. I don't have to see it myself, right? Yeah. So the same thing happened in energy storage. So you have a similar, incredible decrease of cost. So both of these things are really important to make happen what we see, what we want to see happening. Okay, let me just see where is my next picture. Why did it come on? I need to move back my mouse to this screen. Yeah. So at the same time, we see an increase in energy cost. So the ESCOM rates are going up. So this is clearly a situation where we actually, I would call it historic times, where renewable energy plus storage has become cheaper than energy from the grid. And this is pivotal for the change that we're seeing. Why there's so much excitement? Because of this. Because it's really becoming financially viable. So, okay, now a little bit about the Institute and the consortium, the Energy Storage RDI, Research Development and Innovation Consortium. I'm the coordinator of the program for the last few years. It involves a lot of different institutes in the country. As you can see, CSIR is also part of that. They focus on cathode and anode development, but also upscale of those materials, where the University of Limpopo is looking at modeling and finding the new cathodes and the new anodes of the future with very strong computational models and that are actually well recognized in the world. And then we have Nexa. Nexa looks at electrolyte manufacturing, because who's going to produce those electrolytes if we want to make a battery factory, for instance. Mintech is mostly focusing on recycling, but they also have very good work going on in the battery grade production of battery grade materials. WITS is also doing cathode material precursor work, and then Nelson Mandela University is very known for the testing and accreditation of the cells that are made and used in the country. And then finally the University of Western Cape, where cell assembly and validation has been the main focus of the last many years actually. So how does a system like that look like? This is an entire 15-step process for the production of a lithium-ion battery cell. So we have been, since 2013, when the system was commissioned, the only facility that could make lithium-ion battery cells like these ones, the 18650. I think in Morocco and Egypt, they're busy with this, setting up these plants, also on a pilot scale, but so far I haven't seen any big plant like this. So there's a nice YouTube video. I'm not gonna run the YouTube video. It shows you in 6 minutes time how actually batteries are made. So and it looks actually very similar to how the production is happening in the large plants in the giga scale factories. So we're starting with ink production, and we work with Argonne National Lab. So really the very high level of understanding how these electrodes are performing, because you can start with a certain material, but it doesn't mean that you're going to end up with a good electrode. So there's a lot of knowledge sitting in that slurry. The quality of the cells, there's also not much to say about in terms of negativity. We benchmark against Samsung. So our cells are actually performing very similar to Samsung. So it's not a matter of that South Africa cannot make good cells. South Africa can make brilliant cells. It's just that there is no South African industry supporting cell manufacturing. Everybody is interested in making packs, because that is where the pack is, where the commercial interest is, right? That's where you apply the storage. Nobody wants to build a cell because it costs billions of rands, billions of dollars to build a factory that can make a cost-competitive cell. So you can make a good cell, but if it costs 10 times more than an international imported one, why would anybody be interested? So scale is really important, and I think I have a slide, if I have time, I can show you how important that is. Just focus a bit on what I did. Basically, first this. So we got a couple of people being trained very well in the lab. They know exactly how to make a cell, very good cell. And where do you think they get jobs? Not in South Africa. They end up in Spain, Germany, and France. Are we spending our South African money to train these students for 5 years and then to send them overseas to do good job there? So that was a bit dilemma, and I think we shifted our training efforts. We have now a training program. Currently 46 graduates have been trained, 27 got jobs in South Africa in the space of energy, so that's very good, and then the rest is still continuing or studying on. So we're moving basically from cell manufacturing to pack manufacturing and implementation. What is it, like electric vehicles and these type of things. So these are prototypes that we have been developing, a lot of them. And I think other opportunities, because this session is not just about lithium-ion battery, it also involves other opportunities, and we found one in thermal storage. And I just want to give you one example of a project that we've been running with SA Wines. So you can imagine the wineries, they have relatively a lot of space. You can generate your own renewable energy. You can also do it with agro-PV if you like. You have an inverter, and you can either use that energy to run a cooling system, or you can store energy. I just want to see. Oh, yeah, I'm doing with time. So we have been working on a system where we make ice, and not just a few ice cubes. I mean, huge, massive amounts of ice. And why do you do that? Because you can store energy. One of those tanks, 10 megawatt hour storage. So basically you store 10 megawatt hours in water. Now that sounds too good to be true, and that is too good to be true, because making the ice is actually where the money goes. So you need a very big ice machine, and that could cost you almost as much as a battery. So but that was part of the study, to find out what is actually working out, where the economics are in these type of systems, and battery prices are coming down all the time. And of course, one other advantage of a battery is that it can be used for anything, not just storage of running a cooling system, but it also can be lights and other things. So, but we still believe that in this space, you will save money if you think about other storage media. So thermal storage is a very interesting one. Also, not only for cold, but also for hot. Half of the energy in the world is used to heat stuff, or cool stuff. So obviously, if you can do something in that space, where you're just focusing on heating and cooling, you can really come up with an economically viable solution. So one of the European projects that we involved is to build these cold store rooms. So cold store rooms entirely powered by renewable energy, with a 1 cubic meter ice block, in an engineering, a clever way of engineering to extract and to store your energy. And this is a slide that I use. I have a lecture at Stellenbosch University. I do the energy storage system. So all the slides that Joanne flied through in 10 minutes, that takes 40 hours to explain properly. So I could understand her rush in what she was doing. But these are all energy storage systems. So they're all doing the same thing. They store energy. But the question is, which one is the best one? Which one are you going for? Obviously, we see a lot of people going for lithium-ion, and for good reasons. But there are a few that shouldn't be forgotten and really deserve some attention. I would say, so if you ask me, if I look in my crystal ball, things like on the thermal storage, you would see thermal rock storage, and Stellenbosch is actually quite good at that. I think there was one more arrow that I'm missing, because ice storage is also one that I had an arrow. On the electrochemical side, and I'm skipping the hydrogen for the moment, because that's a whole storage on its own. Electrochemical storage, look for cheap materials, iron and air. What's cheaper than iron or air? So if you can get a system right that can cycle enough with these type of low-cost materials, zinc air, and a sodium-ion battery. I don't know how many people know about the upcoming of sodium-ion batteries. So not the Zebra batteries, but actual sodium, where the lithium is actually just swapped with sodium, and there's all kinds of benefits you can get from the system like that. So the first cars are already on the road that drive on sodium-ion batteries. So it's really moving extremely fast. And I think that's one of the things that people may not know or may be hesitant about when they think about batteries or they want to invest in batteries. They still think 2 years, 3 years back. And if you blink, you miss. You don't know what's happening now because you're still thinking of a few years back. And a few years is relatively short. I'm teaching applied chemistry at the university. I never had to change a slide for the last 5 years, six years. But in energy storage, you need every year, half of your deck is updated because the space is moving incredibly fast. And you're missing out if you don't keep that in mind. So this is the end of where I want to stop. Thank you. Any questions will follow later, right? Or we can have questions now. Yeah, great.
Thank you for the presentation. I actually forgot my question. Okay, I will just fumble around until I get the question. So I see the whole roadmap of the energy storage consortium. I just wanted to find out, you mentioned that manufacturing the cells in the country, it's expensive. And I want to find out what makes it expensive and how I don't want to put the blame on the government, but let me say how can it be made cheaper or subsidized? Yeah. And the second question is, why is it so slow in the country right now to recycle the lithium-ion batteries? So the whole process of manufacturing and recycling, it seems to be slow.
Yeah, so there's two questions basically. So I will start with the last one because we have started a recycling project last year, and it's also quite well supported at the moment. The reason why that is there wasn't a real urgency is because you need volumes. You need large volumes of batteries before you can make an economic recycling plant. So we're waiting for those volumes to come through. We had $1 billion in investment or purchase of batteries 2 years ago. So those volumes, that are the volumes that we're looking for recycling. So in the next 5, 6, 7 years, then those volumes slowly becoming real, and they can then be taken up by the recycling industry. So I'm not too worried about recycling. I think they are piling up on different spaces. The volume's getting more and more, and then suddenly the interest of industry will kick in. Regarding why it is so difficult for us South Africans to build a factory. And the problem with lithium-ion batteries specifically is it's a volume game. So you need to really invest in very, very large factories. And very large factories means very high risk in investment. And then all the raw materials, even though the raw materials are maybe in the country, the battery grade materials, the refined materials, they're not here. So if you want to work towards a local battery manufacturing, make sure that your resources get upgraded in the country. Don't ship out manganese ore to China. Make first manganese ore, manganese sulfate at the right quality, and then sell that to China, because it still has a great value, but at least the country will benefit more, and it will make it more interesting for companies to invest, because they say, hey, you already have manganese sulfate, you already have electrolyte, you already have foils. So you need to develop the local value chain before the big investment can come that then de-risks the big investment, because these investments are huge. I mean, you've seen British Volt go bankrupt, $5 billion, what's it, euro, pounds even. So it's really not funny, you know. So, and unfortunately you need that size before you can make a cell that can sell. At that price that you look for, because nobody's going to buy your South African battery if it costs twice as much, but it doesn't last twice as long. It's just so that is part of the question, part of the answer. Any other question? Yeah.
question is around residential supply of batteries. What do you think we need to do to get bond financing to include storage to be covered as part of the purchase of a property, just like we do with the car? I mean, if you buy an EV, it's there. So,
I would believe that it's already there. Certain banks, perhaps, maybe not. Yeah, I can't call net bank and those type of things. You're not supposed to advertise anything, but. So you have those things. I don't think that is the problem, and I think you're tipping on something that I didn't really go into. We spoke about the battery value chain. You look at the other side of the value chain is the actual end product, the battery, and I think there's a number of successful companies in the country that make already container-size batteries. There's at least 6, 7 that I know of that make. So that's the other side of the opportunities. So as long as we push those opportunities, because they will turn your low-cost renewable energy into more value. So we need to implement more. It doesn't matter whether cells were produced here or not. Just import the cells, make big packs, and get them to work and earn the money back. Because in the end of the day, South Africa is blessed with low-cost renewable energy. So that is the starting point, a strategic advantage. Energy should be cheap in this country.
Okay, then. There's this.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, Prof. I think you mentioned something that is very critical in terms of processing or beneficiating local materials. So the first question is, currently I think there is, in Morocco, there's a commissioned battery manufacturing plant, the complete battery manufacturing plant, and it's the first of a kind in Africa.
Has it been commissioned?
Yes.
Okay. So we no longer
it was just last week in the news.
Okay.
So yeah, I just want to ask, what is it that's preventing South Africa from doing a research to beneficiate these local materials? So I mean, we've got the manganese that you mentioned, nickel, cobalt, all of these materials, they are found locally or at least regionally. Now, what would it take for South Africa to get into this space to beneficiate these local materials to battery grade materials? Because I haven't seen a lot of that happening in the country, and I'm just wondering, why is that so?
Yeah. So yeah, it kind of links to the question that was asked before. Why did Morocco? What did Morocco do to get it right, in a sense, right? Part of the question is the demand. Morocco is the one that started producing EVs, so that is a guarantee of supply. I'm not sure if this factory that you're speaking of, if it has offtake agreement with those car manufacturers, because that would be a major boost for such decision, right? So as long as there's no major offtaker, even though we know the market is huge, there's not a single very large offtaker. But there are, of course, there are several plans of factories that want to start. There's AfriVolt and the Mega Millennium Energy Company that have been announcing a lot of big plans and really scrambling to get the money together. So, but it is, I think all the departments, they need to understand, or they need to see the value of what batteries can bring to everybody, not just to Department of Energy, or not just to the minerals and mining and minerals. What is it? Mineral resources. It's tourism. It's every department in the country can actually benefit from that. As soon as they start realizing how valuable batteries are, or energy storage rather, then I think these things can happen. So it is partially political, and partially the lack of very large offtake agreements.
Very quick one. What bothers me is when we decide to get it right, the world would have moved on to a new technology, like the sodium-ion battery is coming in right now with a high speed. So when we decide to say, okay, we got the lithium right, the whole EV, even the grid scale battery will be moving to another technology. Who knows, another technology will come again in 5 years' time or something. So that's a concern in terms of energy storage manufacturing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think Tabang also on that one, the lithium-ion battery, is opening up the route for the other stuff, like the sodium-ion, the vanadium fluorodox battery. The challenge is that lithium-ion is experiencing now, it can be easier with the other ones. So we need to start, we need to continue, we need to accelerate.
So some technologies are closely related, so it's even if you build a factory for lithium-ion, you could still move to sodium. It's because it's really intrinsically the same. It's just different feed materials. But of course, if you talk about flow batteries or other things, that then you're not as easy to adjust the factory to different type. But I think the market, I mean, sodium is looking really great. I would say, I mean, if I had to invest in anything in the country, I think sodium-ion would be the one, because the promise of the lower cost. I always look at the levelized cost of energy storage. So that's the best for the country. That's the best for the economy to benefit most at the lowest cost.
Are the solutions that are being built ready for like a 5 gigawatt or a 20 gigawatt size data center? I know the guys at Gucha are looking at setting something up like that within the next 2 years. Would it be able to jump on the bandwagon in terms of readiness to scale?
I think the largest facility is about 3 gigawatt hour in terms of storage, and battery storage. So the technology is already there, not in Africa or I think it's China, and then followed by some real gigawatt scale already all over the world. So it's not a question of whether it can be done, and the prices are keep on coming down, as you see. So it becomes cheaper and cheaper to do this, and with more demos and more projects being fruitful and successful, it will even be more easy to get financing and to get things going. So I think we are really on the point. As I said, the point where renewable plus storage is cheaper than any other form of energy generation, any fossil fuel based generation. That point is past, and people just have to realize it. It's no longer a question whether it's passed. So I think that is a very powerful message, actually.
Sorry, is it possible to use a recycled material from a battery to build another battery?
I would definitely say so, yes.
So currently we do have a lot of, I don't know if it's a lot or what, but we still have battery materials that I think Goenga is working on recycling.
Yeah, that's right.
Can we actually just, instead of trying to find on how to purify the grade, can't we just take those materials and use them?
In theory, yes, and it all depends on, like, if you look at cobalt and nickel, then I would say it would most likely be cheaper to have recycled metals. But if you look at manganese, I think if you have a very, very good ore, it will be cheaper to produce manganese from a mine than manganese from batteries, because there's a lot of cost involved to get the purity right and everything. So that it's a mixed answer. Sometimes it's just cheaper if you have the resources like South Africa, most likely it will be best for us to dig into those resources. But if you are in a country where you don't have manganese, then of course you will grab for the recycled stuff.
Sorry, a bit technical, but energy density, are we already at 400? That was the magic number we're looking to push on standard production. How far are we from that?
I'm not too much clued up about the latest of latest, but obviously the
You mean gravimetric or gravimetric?
like the solid state systems with pure lithium, Those are going very close to, I think they are close to that. But then you have other issues like cyclability, durability, cost. So at the moment, that's why I like the word levelized cost of storage, because it basically just cuts through all these different technologies, whatever, and cyclability and how much. You really know what you're paying for each kilowatt hour you're storing. If you talk LCOE, and those batteries are not there. They may be nice for fast cars and those type of things, but for now, renewable energy storage is what we really can benefit from. And, yeah.
So South Africa does really well in the aerospace domain. So I'm not sure if everybody in the room is familiar with a factory in Eikenhof, Joburg South, called the Airplane Factory, aka Sling. They produce about 150 aircraft every single year.
Nice.
Crazy.
They need those batteries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the northwest, then you've got Yonker sailplanes, JS5, also doing really well. There could be some interesting applications doing drone conversions of those particular platforms.
Yeah.
So batteries then become also useful over there. So that number comes
so
in.
just maybe one comment on that is the hydrogen drones, they fly much further than any battery drone because of the weight advantage of the hydrogen being very, very light. So this is one of the few applications of hydrogen where I really believe that it can make a difference is in aviation because of the weight. So I didn't do the conversion, but I think you will get very, very close or even higher than 400 watt-hour per kilogram.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah,
I'm still around, so.
Voilà, if there are more questions, because I think it was very inspiring, your talk. So thank you very much, Professor Bladergroen.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I will not get there anymore because it's a bit too tight. So we fly over the ocean now for our next speaker, and that's Dr. Jeroen Buscher. He is my colleague at VITO, and he's a master in physics from University of Ghent, and did his PhD later at the University of Leuven, and he also worked at Department of Electrical and Engineering at the University of Leuven as a project manager. But then, since 2016, he is part of VITO as a product manager for the electrical storage. And there he really drives the innovation for the next generation battery management systems. He will tell you more about these battery management systems, and also, of course, how we collaborate as a Belgian institute with the South African Research Institute. Welcome, Jeroen Buscher.
Thank you, Sophie. Good afternoon to you all. So I was indeed asked to cover two topics. Originally, I was going to talk only on the VITO BMS development, but now I'm also asked to give some words on bridging continents through innovation, so our work in collaboration with South Africa. And I think actually we can perfectly match the two. So I can perfectly start with introducing our technology development and see how it evolves in our collaboration with South African partners. So myself, I'm working in a unit that is working on sustainable energy, water, buildings and district solutions. So that's our mission, to work on technologies that are there to empower a competitive industry and resilient society. And to even further accelerate and support that transition towards a sustainable energy system, we as VITO, we partner up with two Belgian universities, the KU Leuven and University of Hasselt, and another research center named IMEC, in a research collaboration named Energyville. And we have two physical premises in Genk, that's the eastern part of Belgium. In that collaboration, we have 8 research lines, and within each research line, there are at least 2 partners working on that topic. And you see there is a whole variety of topics, more technological research lines, but also some more service-oriented ones. The majority is more electrical research lines or electrically oriented, but there is also a research line working on thermal systems, for example. Me, of course, I'm coordinator of the electrical storage research line within Energyville. In that research line, we are covering a whole variety of topics. So actually, we go from materials level to system level. So our partners, IMEC and University of Hasselt, are really focused on working on new materials for batteries. For example, sodium-ion, solid-state batteries, next-generation lithium-ion, lithium-sulfur, for example. We do a lot of modeling, characterization, testing of batteries, work on new battery cell architectures, trying to make them lighter, for example, more performant in the end. New battery concepts, development of battery management systems, so much later. And then also working on battery integration support in various applications, mobile applications, but also stationary ones. And why are we doing this? I don't think I have to advocate this any longer. We see batteries, they are here, they are needed, and they are coming. I think the previous two speakers really advocated that pretty well. But what is our task as a research institute? Well, we try to develop technologies to improve the performance, the safety and reliability of those batteries, but also improve or increase their techno-economical value and their lifespan. One indispensable component in the total battery system that is comprised of different battery cells is the battery management system. You can call the master of ceremony in your battery system. So what it does is it monitors the battery state based on different measurements on cell level, voltage, current, temperature. It protects the battery, so ensures safe operation. It optimizes the battery performance, keeping it at a good state of charge, for example. It interfaces with other subsystem components. Again, can be in the vehicle, can be in the stationary energy storage system, and it provides some basic diagnostics. So it tells you about events that have been happening, gives you some insights on the battery. That's of course if you have a good BMS, and that's the thing we are developing. We are trying to develop competitive state-of-the-art or beyond state-of-the-art battery management system technologies. And we have been doing that for a while. So that brand is called Vito Batsen's BMS technology, which you see here, at least part of it. So it's a modular system where we have a master system that communicates to cell-level units that are measuring the voltages and so on of the cells. It's a patented design, which is modular and really flexible, both in the hardware and the software. It's chemistry agnostic, and we can even support hybrid systems. So for example, lithium-ion has been mentioned, and we have most expertise with lithium-ion, but we also supported already in the past sodium-ion batteries as well. So we can do that. Every battery system that comprises of cells between 0 and 5 volts we can support. We provide battery state estimation, either implemented ourselves or we support the integration of third-party battery state estimation algorithms. It's open for optimized control, more on that later, like the first speaker has told, Jodine. Optimization is really important, and there is lots to be gained. And we maximize efficiency due to, for example, a good balancing of our battery cells, keeping them in a good condition. The longest experience we have, or the system that is longest in the field, is our BMS running in Ghent, on a site called the Nieuwe Dokken, since 2020, where our BMS is supporting a 260 kilowatt-hour lithium-ion LFP battery, which offers different services. So it maximizes local PV self-consumption, it supports the smart charging of EVs, it does cost optimization, and also plays on the imbalance market. So we provided the BMS. It was implemented by a battery assembler and an integrator. And we foresee safety. So we ensure the safe operation. We have 0 incidents in those 5 years. We balance all individual cells, maximizing the capacity that we can use in the system. And we also provide remote monitoring of the system. So at any time, we can provide some insights on that battery that is in place. What is our offering with the BMS is that we are providing a lot of configurability, both in hardware and software. Users have a tool where they can configure the system based on what they need. So we can actually scale also the system up to 1000 volts. And for every battery, we set a safe operating area which we communicate every time to the other components in the system. There is live monitoring of all measurements. We do provide different balancing strategies which can extend the battery lifetime up to 10%, so only based on that balancing strategy. We have configurable alarm handling, and we, of course, do some early stage diagnostics. We have signed, yeah, I have the demo kit there. You see it here on the screen, and at 4:30 or something, you can come to the booth and we'll give a demonstration about the suitcase. You can also come earlier or a bit later, no problem. But we have a nice demonstrator where we show a bit of the features I've just been explaining. Where are we now? Like I said, we have a system running in the field already for 5 years. Last year, we signed a non-exclusive license agreement with a technology partner, which brings this technology to the market. So he really makes the products, and he tries to valorize it in different market sectors. And we configure in that way an open collaboration. So they are making the products. We keep on doing our R&D. If we find some improvement, can be in battery intelligence, we port it to our tech partner. That's the idea. And together we are targeting battery assemblers and integrators. So battery manufacturers, battery pack manufacturers that start from cell level, start to make modules and want to integrate a BMS on it. But we, of course, are open for new opportunities and new partnerships. So it can be worthwhile to have also a tech partner here in South Africa doing the same business and making the same kind of open collaboration. You heard, and I repeated already from Jodine, that optimized control is really a way to go. There is a lot to be gained, and one of the main reasons underlying is that batteries are aging just as humans do. And I don't know who was yesterday at the gala dinner, but we don't have a makeup artist for batteries. But we can implement optimized control, which takes into account this degradation in making decisions how to operate a battery. There are different ways that batteries can degrade, and I won't go into detail here, but for example, you have a growth of the solid electrolyte interface layer and the surface cracking, where I would go into detail a bit now, at least, showing the impact it has on aging of different cells and modules. How can we implement that degradation know-how in the optimized control? Therefore, we need a model. Okay, so we are heavily specialized in making battery models and integrating them in optimization algorithms. So first of all, you want to validate your model. You follow, you cycle the cells, and you see how well the model can predict, for example, the voltage pattern during charging and discharging. You also see if your batteries are lying on the shelf and they're aging as well. That's called calendar aging. And you see that the model only takes into account SEI growth and predicts the aging quite well. So on the y-axis you see the capacity loss in versus the time on the x-axis. If you cycle the batteries, then other degradation mechanisms come into play. For example, the surface cracking, and you see you need the two degradation modes to come to a good estimation or to a good representation of what is really happening. So that's all information that is due to testing and then adapting the models, adapting the parameters, and so on. Now we integrate these models into algorithms for optimal control of batteries. And we see that if you use more advanced battery models, you come in the end to less degradation, a longer lifetime, and 15% more profit. So it coincides really well with the margin that Jodine was explaining, the 10-20% margin when you have optimal control. If you higher the cost of degradation, you see that you get even reduced degradation, because then in the optimal control, you really want to avoid the degradation, and so you end up in a situation where you reduce your degradation with minimal impact on the profit. And then to come up with the same profit with different models in your control, you see that the lower degradation is achieved with advanced models. So baseline is really that in your control of batteries, in your operation, degradation should be really be taken into account. Another example here, so for example, you have a price incentive that you have a price signal that you want to follow, you want to play on the market with your battery, you try to follow that signal, and you see how you can optimally use the battery and use different models for that. You see again, with the more advanced models, there is a lower capacity loss, but what is really interesting to see is that typically batteries are used in a state of charge window between 20 and 80%. But if you see at our results, then if we're using the advanced models, then we're actually using the battery at a lower state of charge window. And so between, let's say, 10% and 50%. So we avoid the higher regions of state of charge in this case. Of course, it can differ given the business case you're looking at. How do we implement this in real life? Of course, we do a lot of testing, a lot of evaluation in the lab. So we evaluate the cells in our battery testing lab. We do evaluate modules at our lab, and then we go into the field. So the same module as has been evaluated in the lab is being deployed at 3 different sites physically in the Netherlands, 2, and one at our location in Belgium. So it's running, the modules are running, and every now and then here we do checkups about the capacity, the remaining capacity of the module, to see how well we are taking into account the degradation, how well we are doing the control, and these are the results for now. So here it's really the measurement of the remaining capacity during charging and discharging measured. And from this data and the data on the calendar time and the throughput, we found that the respective aging at the cell level would correspond to a degradation of 1% within these 2 months. And that's what you see here. But currently, this degradation is not visible in the data yet. We only have been measuring this data for 2 months when we came to these results. Further exploitation will give more information, as well as how the trend with our model. So if we do the same simulation with those use cases on a computer with our models, then we expect the following in degradation. But we have to see how this evolves in the future. But main message is keep degradation, take that into account in your control, and the actual collaboration that we were looking for here is working together with energy management system operators that can integrate these algorithms in their control. Of course, to build these models, to validate these models, you need a lot of testing. And you don't need only a lot of testing for those models and this battery intelligence, also for making choices about which battery to choose for one given application. It's needed to do battery testing. And that leads me actually to the following topic, and that leads me also to a trip down memory lane when I was here about 6 years ago, when there was a meeting of the World Bank Energy Storage Partnership. And I'm very happy that after that meeting in January, we were very happy that by the end of that year, in December, we managed to get a project funded by the Flemish government where we stimulated or supported the alternative energy development in South Africa. So we managed to set up a collaboration with CSIR with the support of local governments. So we are talking about the CSIR VITO battery testbed project, which then started, like I said, end of 2020 and went for 3 years. And yeah, you see the involved partners, VITO, CSIR, funded by the government of Flanders, and with stakeholders like the Department of Science and Innovation here in South Africa, and the World Bank, also a supporting partner. The primary objective of this project was to facilitate South Africa's shift to renewable energy by offering crucial battery testing services. So really, it's crucial to evaluate the performance, the behavior of batteries in different conditions for different use cases in the local environment where the batteries would be deployed. The targeted users for this testbed project were technology developers, manufacturers, and importers of batteries, and they still are. So the primary goals are to assess and characterize batteries, to provide insights for improvements and for optimization of those batteries being developed or being imported. And actually was built in 3 phases. So first of all, of course, you need to invest in the indoor battery testbed. Then you have to demonstrate the benefits of battery storage for developing countries as demanded by the World Bank as well. And then it's also the idea to create the testbed as a kind of platform for building capacity and market knowledge. So a lot of training of people here to become experts in battery testing and battery data analysis. So I'm now showing some pictures, giving you some ideas about the stages of that project. So of course we needed to find a building for that testbed, and that was building 24 here on the CSIR site, which of course needed to be refurbished to host the battery testing devices. Then the battery testing device and the climate chambers coming with them or bought together with them, they needed to be accepted, so some site acceptance tests need to be performed. And everything had to be done well in time to get it done by the end of the project, but also to be ready for important communication towards different stakeholders. Come to that later. And like I said, it also involves some training of the people. So for example, here you see some people here also present in the room. Vitus is there, you see Philip. So people from Vito traveling, yeah, also. So for example, in 23 we had 5 real physical training sessions here, which really worked well, both on the battery testing expertise and battery analysis. But not only that, also some insights on LCA, so life cycle analysis and life cycle cost analysis have been done. And then there was a lot of communication, especially the last years, about that project. A lot of visits, for example, here from His Majesty the King of Belgium, King Philip. Then there was another energy storage partnership meeting in 23, and there was even a Flemish delegation flying over to visit here the South African community and the value chain. A lot of presentations were given here by Renesh, managing from CSIR side, and Carlo from the Vito side. You see again some people involved in the projects, and of course a lot of communication publications as well on that testbed. Actually, tomorrow there will be the opportunity. I think it's too late to register, but tomorrow there is an event or a site visit being planned at 9 a.m. There is a nice brochure. I think it will be available there. I think you can find it online as well. What you can also find online via the QR codes are 2 nice videos introducing the indoor testbed to the community. Actually 2 nice videos giving you some more insights about the project. So that's where I would like to end, and thank you for your attention. I hope I gave you some insights about what kind of technology development we do, how we try to collaborate with the local community here.
Okay, so we went a little bit over time, but if you're interested in a few more questions and you're willing to stay, I think Jeroen is certainly willing to answer your questions. So if there are any questions, please feel free.
Thank you again, Jeroen. I want to speak to the battery management opportunities and prospects, partnerships that you alluded to.
Mm-hmm.
In essence, within the South African context, what low-hanging fruits are you eyeing? And that speaks to the opportunities, the partnerships that you alluded to from a mutual beneficial perspective.
Mhm. Okay. Um, we develop technology to create an impact, and so that's why we go into partnerships. That's why we try to find tech partners to make products out of our technology. We did that in Flanders now, in Belgium. We want to do the same here. I think there are still opportunities, like Professor Bladerhoen said, there are still a lot of companies trying to build, or that are building batteries from the cell level on, and are looking for the right tools. And we often see that's something we've seen in Belgium, that you can find BMSs and there is no issue, but not all BMS technologies or products give the same transparency, openness, way of the freedom to configure. Often those are black boxes where you don't have any control on. You can't import any battery intelligence yourself. So that's the difference we try to make. And if we go in a partnership, it should be open. This configurability, this flexibility should still be in there. That's why we want to keep this open collaboration. We have this tech partner. We are currently targeting European market for that. We are now supporting with the tech partner also local. We are trying to set up collaboration, but it would be ideal also for the South African industry if we could really transfer that knowledge here, that technology. If we can have a local technology partner translating that technology to the product.
Thank you.
What are the prospects of leveraging the work that you guys have done into a regional energy exchange, beyond just a virtual power plant?
You mean being implemented in a real energy management system, or yeah? We have done this work on the battery testing and modeling already for a long time. The first results that showed the benefits were there in 2016. We convinced, based on those results, partners to join a project to go higher in TRL and to go outside the lab, go into the field. Not only with NMC batteries, but because that was the first result on NMC batteries, then we moved to LFP. We had a good collaboration with a partner, a Dutch partner, which unfortunately then was moved to another partner, which left a bit the interest. That's one side of the story. The other side is it's not always easy to you need to find a way in, because for the models you need a lot of information which you can get from the testing, but of course you are also reliant on a bit of information from the battery manufacturer. We try to create some independence there in improving how we parameterize the models, but of course if you have a link with the battery manufacturer itself, it would help. So there for the moment is the biggest bottleneck, I think, to integrate, to get to the real integration in the energy management system.
Just passing thought that has to do with finance. On the market, it's easy to find like an aerospace index. Do we have anything akin to a battery or an energy index on the stock exchanges?
I'm not sure what the index is referring to, with which metric.
Yeah, so an index ordinarily under aerospace would be like a portfolio that has distributed shares in different aerospace companies that you can just buy off once off, and then you've got like spread shareholding in like 200 odd aerospace companies. Do we have something like that in energy?
Not sure. Yep.
So with the BMS, I think you touched on the different chemistry, NMC and the LFP. So you can use this BMS for, across the lithium-ion chemistries?
Yes. Yeah. So, like I said, basically every cell-based energy storage system with cell voltages between 0 and 5 volts. So the 0 is also quite unique. Often it's between 2, 2.5 and 4-ish. So we can cover that complete range from 0 to 5 volts. So we're covering current technologies, but also future ones. There have been talks about going above 5 volts, but that's not there yet. And even if it's there, we already found a solution how to cope with that. And yeah, some words on that. So the battery management system comes with configuration tools. So if you would switch from one technology to another, it's just a matter of changing your configuration, changing your parameters to set, for example, another safe operating area.
What type of noise emission can you expect from a system like this? I'm talking throughout the waves, not just like decibel noise. I had a discussion with some of the guys at the Square Kilometer Array, and one of their key questions when they wanted to set up a solar plant was that it was going to create so much noise, potentially, to the radio telescopes that they needed to rethink the design. What is the knowledge that you guys currently have on that? Environmental noise that it creates?
Yeah, I don't know by heart. I don't know if anyone knows by heart. I can look for the figures because I know we have them somewhere. I think also for batteries storage systems, it's mainly the power conversion system that creates more noise than the batteries. But okay, we can look for the figures there. There is a lot of attention there as well in Europe, especially in crowded regions.
Okay, I think we can wrap up. So thank you very much for your attention and for your questions. I hope you learned more on the energy storage, both in South Africa but also in Flanders. So if you have any more questions, the speakers will be around, and I will make sure that for in one way or another, also Jodine's contacts are being spread. So thank you very much. Also, thank you a lot to our speakers today, and enjoy the reception afterwards.